There may be no character in From more mysterious than Victor. For years, viewers have treated Victor as the show's living encyclopedia. He's the man who knows where things are buried, remembers people nobody else remembers, and understands rules that were never explained to him. But what if we've been looking at Victor the wrong way this entire time? What if Victor isn't simply a survivor of Fromville? What if he's the key to understanding how the town itself works? Because the deeper you look into Victor's story, the harder it becomes to believe he's experiencing time the same way everyone else is. At first glance, the time traveler theory sounds ridiculous. From is filled with monsters, visions, and supernatural mysteries, but actual time travel feels like a completely different level of science fiction. Yet the show keeps placing Victor in situations that are difficult to explain through normal logic. He possesses knowledge he shouldn't have. He reacts to discoveries before other characters understand their significance. And perhaps most importantly, he rarely seems surprised by the town's newest horrors. Fear? Absolutely. Victor is often terrified. But surprise? That's much rarer. It's almost as if every new revelation reminds him of something he's already seen, rather than introducing something completely new. Take a closer look at Victor's drawings. Throughout the series, these drawings have served as more than just childhood sketches. They've acted almost like records, archives, warnings. Many of them appear connected to future events long before those events occur. The common explanation is that Victor is simply documenting strange experiences. But what if the drawings aren't predictions? What if they're memories? Suddenly, an entirely different possibility emerges. Maybe Victor isn't seeing the future. Maybe he's remembering events from another cycle, another timeline, or another version of Fromville that already happened. That theory becomes even stronger when you consider how often the town seems to operate in loops. From constantly hints at repetition. The same symbols appear across generations. Similar tragedies unfold repeatedly. Certain locations seem connected to events decades apart. The town doesn't feel like a place moving towards a destination. It feels like a place trapped in a pattern. If that's true, then Victor's role becomes incredibly important. He may be the only person who has retained fragments of previous cycles, while everyone else starts over. But here's where the theory takes an even darker turn. What if Victor isn't a time traveler at all? What if he's something much stranger? Think about the difference. A time traveler moves between different points in time. A witness remains stationary while time moves around them. Victor's behavior often feels closer to the second possibility. He doesn't talk like someone who traveled into the future or visited the past. Instead, he behaves like someone who has spent decades watching events repeat themselves. The fear in his voice isn't the fear of uncertainty. It's the fear of recognition. That's an important distinction. Whenever new mysteries emerge, Victor often reacts as though he's remembering something rather than learning something. There are moments throughout the series where it feels like he knows more than he's capable of explaining. Not because he's hiding information, but because he lacks the words to describe what he's experienced. Imagine living through events that don't follow a normal timeline. Imagine seeing fragments of the past, present, and future blend together until distinguishing between them becomes impossible. That's exactly how Victor behaves. The strongest evidence may actually come from Victor's relationship with the boy in white. No character is more closely connected to both figures than Victor, and the boy in white appears to exist outside normal rules entirely. He doesn't seem bound by age. He appears across different eras. He arrives with information nobody else possesses. If the boy in white exists beyond conventional time, then Victor's long-term connection to him could explain why Victor experiences reality differently than everyone else. But what if the boy in white isn't simply guiding Victor? What if he's preparing him? The show repeatedly suggests that certain people are chosen for specific purposes. Jade receives visions. Tabitha connects to the children. Boyd becomes the town's reluctant leader. Victor's purpose may be memory itself. He may be the person responsible for carrying knowledge from one cycle to the next, not because he's special in a traditional sense, but because the town needs someone to remember. That would explain one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Victor. How did he survive for so long? Seriously, From is a world where entire families die overnight. Experienced survivors make fatal mistakes. Even strong leaders struggle to stay alive. Yet Victor managed to survive for decades. The official explanation is that he learned the rules early. But that answer feels incomplete. Plenty of people learn the rules. They still die. Victor's survival feels intentional, necessary, almost protected. Why would the town allow that? Because every system requires a record. Every cycle requires a witness. And Victor may be both. Now let's connect this to one of the show's most fascinating themes: memory. Again and again, From treats memory as something sacred. Characters constantly struggle to understand the past. Forgotten details become crucial clues. Drawings preserve information. Visions reveal hidden histories. The town seems obsessed with remembering. If Victor represents memory itself, then his importance extends far beyond being a survivor. He may actually be part of the mechanism keeping the cycle running. In other words, Victor may not be trapped in the town. Victor may be trapped in its history. That possibility changes how we view every interaction he has with newer residents. Whenever Victor tries to warn someone, there's often a sense of desperation behind his words. It doesn't feel like he's worried about what might happen. It feels like he's worried about what always happens, as though he's witnessed similar events before and knows exactly where they lead. And that's where the time traveler theory and witness theory begin to overlap. Maybe Victor isn't physically traveling through time. Maybe the town is. Imagine if Fromville periodically resets itself in some way. Not completely, not enough to erase everything. Just enough to restart the cycle while leaving traces behind. Symbols remain, drawings remain, certain memories remain. Victor survives each iteration and becomes the bridge connecting one cycle to the next. From his perspective, it would feel almost identical to time travel. He would possess knowledge from events nobody else remembers because, in a sense, he's already lived through versions of them. Suddenly, Victor's entire character takes on a tragic new meaning. He's not confused because he's unstable. He's confused because he's carrying too many memories. He's not isolated because he's antisocial. He's isolated because nobody else shares his perspective. He's not afraid because he lacks courage. He's afraid because he understands the stakes better than anyone. And if that's true, then Victor may be the most heartbreaking character in the entire series. Because imagine the burden of watching the same mistakes happen over and over again. Imagine meeting new people, knowing you'll probably lose them. Imagine carrying decades of knowledge while struggling to convince anyone that you're telling the truth. That's not the life of a hero, that's the life of a witness. Which brings us to the biggest question of all. What if Victor's greatest fear isn't the monsters? What if it's remembering? Because if Victor truly understands that the town operates in cycles, then every new arrival represents another chapter in a story he's already watched unfold. Every friendship comes with the expectation of loss. Every mystery comes with the knowledge that previous attempts to solve it may have already failed. And recently, Victor seems more unsettled than ever before. That's what makes this theory so interesting. If Victor has witnessed countless cycles, then why is he suddenly worried now? Why does he seem increasingly concerned about the changes happening around him? Why does it feel like events are unfolding differently this time? There are only two possibilities. Either Victor is finally seeing a path towards breaking the cycle, or he's witnessing the beginning of something even worse. Because whether Victor is a time traveler or merely a witness, one fact remains impossible to ignore. He knows something about the town that nobody else knows. And whatever that secret is, it may determine how the entire story of From finally ends.